For Session Update, I'm Shannon Lurkey. Governor Dayton and members of ethnic and minority organizations gathered at a press conference to announce the creation of a working group that would assess the status of legislative mandates with regard to diversity. The initiative is the first of its kind nationally and will detect any failings or deficiencies in current law and make recommendations for future action. Afterwards, Governor Dayton took questions from the Capitol Press Corps. Here's that press conference.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to introduce Mr. W.C. Jordan, the state president of the NAACP.
Thank you, Jamie. As was mentioned, my name is W.C. Jordan. I'm president of the Minnesota Dakotas Area State Conference for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Standing with me is Jeffrey Martin. He's the first vice president of the state conference, and he's the president of the St. Paul branch. Nakimi Levy-Pounds, she is the president of the Minneapolis branch, and Denise Fales, who's the president of the St. Cloud branch. The mission of the NAACP is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons and to eliminate race-based discrimination. The vision of the NAACP is to ensure a society in which all individuals have equal rights and there is no racial hatred or racial discrimination. The Civil Rights Act was passed 52 years ago by Congress and signed into law by President Lyndon Johnson. The Civil Rights Act forms the statutory framework for the Affirmative Action Act. These acts were established to ensure equal access and opportunity if administered correctly. In 1957, the state of Minnesota passed the Freedom from Discrimination Act. In doing so, the state positioned itself as the national leader for equal opportunity. The act was designed to ensure that citizens have the opportunity to live free and achieve. This act sought to eliminate barriers to achievement due to race, color, religion, sex, or national origin by federal and state governments. Our Freedom from Discrimination Act has evolved over the years to maintain our state standing as a leader in equal access and opportunity. However, today, in the Minnesota marketplace, there is a ferocious cry for equity and racial justice. When the marketplace cries for equity and racial justice, it is telling us that something is wrong with the administrative application of equal access and opportunity laws. Today, the NAACP proudly joins Governor Mark Dayton in announcing this independent audit of the state administrative application of its Affirmative Action Program, Contract Procurement, and Human Rights Act. The purpose of the audit is to identify noncompliance as it relates to these legislative mandates. We look forward to the identification of these gaps in performance so that the state of Minnesota can take action that will aid in maximizing inclusive participation, equal economic opportunities, and the elimination of barriers and impediments to inclusion for protected class citizens and thus all Minnesotans. The audit will be the first of its kind in the country. The audit will add to Governor Dayton's legacy and the state's legacy for ensuring state government is doing what the laws require the state to do to achieve cultural agility in its operations and to ensure the marketplace is accountable in a manner that encourages diversity and inclusion. We are proud to stand here with Governor Dayton on this historic moment to begin the state's work that will lead to silencing the cries of equity and racial justice in Minnesota. We want to encourage the legislature to join this partnership and support our efforts to audit the administrative application of these critical laws that keep us all free from discrimination. In Minnesota, the human stories are singular, but our destiny is shared. We rise and fall as one people, one state, and human unity must prevail. Human unity prevails when all citizens are free from discrimination. Thank you.
Other of your leaders who wish to speak? No. Okay, well, thank you very much. Very, very well stated. And I'm proud to stand with leaders of the chapters of the Minnesota NAACP and I thank them for taking the lead as they have and bringing, challenging my administration to do more and do better, to lead the way in Minnesota, to provide better opportunities for those who are entrepreneurs and businessmen and women, and as well as for those seeking employment, people of color, to be able to access those economic opportunities that are going to lead to greater equity across our state. I've been governor for over 5 years now. The failings and deficiencies found in this audit are my responsibility. They may have been in place preceding my tenure, but I've been here long enough that I will take responsibility. I think we've made some important progress. I thank our commissioners who are here, as well as especially Chief of Staff Jamie Tincher, who's really spearheaded better access to employment opportunities within state government, as well as Commissioner Mossman chairing the Department of Administration. But we have a long ways to go, we recognize that, and I welcome this audit. I expect it'll find further deficiencies, identify them, but that's the kind of information we will need to spur further action. So again, I thank you very much for your leadership, and I thank you very much for your willingness to engage with my administration, and look forward to working with you to carry this audit out, and then to work together to implement its findings and recommendations. With that, we'll respond to questions on this particular subject.
Who will conduct this audit, Governor, and will the findings be made public?
An RFP was sent out, and we had a firm that responded to it. We're in the process of securing that firm.
Who are you, sir?
I'm Jeffrey Martin, First Vice President of the Minnesota State Dakota Conference and the President of the St. Paul branch of the NAACP.
And the intent would be that the audit would be made public when it's completed?
Yes.
How long do you expect the audit to take?
We're hoping for 3 to 4 months for the audit process to take, but as you know, with most issues and being the first of this kind, we are leaving some wiggle room for it to take a little bit longer. We just want it to be complete, and we want it to be as transparent as possible, and to be that first step in making Minnesota great again for all Minnesotans.
Governor, do you have any sense of what might turn out in the audit? I mean, do you have any sense at all what?
I think the People's Stadium project in Minneapolis has demonstrated what's achievable. I believe 39% of the people employed there are people of color, and the subcontractors as well. And I think that shows, which exceeded the projection or the marker of 33%, which at the time people thought was going to be unachievable. And that says to me, if we make the kind of effort that we should in terms of employing men and women of color and employing their businesses in various Department of Transportation contracts and subcontracts, I think that's an area of still serious deficiency. Again, Commissioner Mossman, I think, has made considerable progress in terms of state contracts, but we're finding we can do more there. It's really opening up using the levers of state government where we have direct responsibility for contracting decisions, as well as within state government for hiring, and that's where, again, we're taking major steps and And again, Co-Chair Jamie, this task force co-chair Jamie Tincher, Chief of Staff, has really spearheaded that within Lieutenant Governor Smith's in my office, as well as other state agencies, as well as boards and commissions. But again, I look forward to finding out where the deficiencies are, so we can make those improvements and have them in place, so that when I leave office in 2.5 years, these changes are institutionalized within the practices of state government. That this is not a one administration kind of initiative. It's something that's really going to be embedded in the practices of state government.
Governor, can you give us a sense behind the scenes of how this came together? Who did the idea come from? How long has it been in the works? Give us a little behind the scenes.
The idea came from these leaders, and they wrote me a letter last year, June of last year. I think we have copies of that. Anyway, it's available, urging this audit, among other measures. I met with them. I met with them subsequently. We got this project underway again. Chief of Staff Jamie Tincher spearheaded from within our office and formed a working group, in which these people have led the effort, and others who are not here. There's a list of the working group as well available. And so it's been a collaborative effort, which I think is that part of the process has been very important. And again, put out an RFP and received one application. They're meeting this afternoon, is that correct?
Yes.
To focus on, to review that RFP and decide how they're going to proceed.
So Mr. Martin or Mr. Jordan, was there, or anyone else for that matter, I don't want to exclude anyone, was there a certain instance or certain case or certain specific concern that's come to your attention in the last year that brought you to the table to say, look, we need this audit done?
No, I think the cry has been ongoing for quite some time. We saw the current economic numbers that came out that show what we already knew within our respective communities, that there was not equality of economics across the board. Whenever you have a drop in $4,000 in the home base of a certain community from $31,000, I think, to $26,000 or $27,000. The question is not how did that $4,000 happen, but how do we get to $31,000 when the rest of the communities are making $67,000, $65,000 household income? So with that huge gap already existing, and we're panicking after a $4,000 drop, which is very significant, don't get me wrong, but how did we get to $31,000 as being what we were okay with at one point in time? I think the cry has gone out. Poverty is a huge issue. The thing is that we have laws on the books that are there to help protect this from happening. The laws are there. We just have to make sure that they're being administered and that they're being followed up on, and that people are being held accountable for when those laws aren't followed. And I think that this is a very bold and brave step by our governor and by our state government officials here. And I think this will be something that hopefully will be copied across America, so we can look at, let's use what we have. Let's use the tools that we already have in our toolkit to make sure that everybody is taken care of in this society.
Who else want to add anything? Sure.
I want to echo the support that's been articulated for this bold move by Governor Dayton. As many of you know, Minnesota has been seen as one of the worst places for African Americans in the country, and that's simply unacceptable and intolerable. It's time for us to take action as a state, and I'm thankful that Governor Dayton has decided to accept responsibility, but he can't do this alone. We need our legislature to step up to the plate as well, and to do their part in making sure that there's equal opportunity for all Minnesotans. That's something that needs to happen with a sense of urgency, because people of color are falling through the cracks from a socioeconomic perspective, even though we know that this is a land of opportunity, that this is a